Spider's Web. In this video we're going to be finishing off our Gnoll Archers. Now let's have a look at see what we can do. Okay, so as you know, we didn't use the same colour of wash on the main as we did on the main body, but what we're going to try and do now is darken it up a little bit because it still looks a little plain. So I think we want to use a little, in fact no, I'm not going to do that yet. In fact, I've changed my mind, I'm not going to do that at all. No, we'll just highlight it a little bit. It should be alright then. Okay, so we're going to go into the colour that we already have for the main body, which is the mix of the Baneblade Brown and the which flesh was it? Rat skin flesh was it? Or was it? No, it was the Balor Brown. I don't know. Rat skin flesh, I think it was. I'm going to go back into that and add a little bit of colour into different areas of the of each of these characters. There we go. So that's it all over. We're just going to add these little these little marks just to add that highlight. There we go. And we're going to say them all over the raised areas. I'm going to do this one, do the others off camera I think, because it's going to be a little bit much. The previous video for this was actually over an hour and a quarter, and that's purely because these are big minis and it took a long time to get things done. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do I'll do one and do the rest off camera and then cut back. Well, that seems to be the quick way of doing this so you don't get bored. So we're going to just run over different areas before we lighten this colour. There we go. And so we're looking towards the upper areas. Yeah. Try to avoid going into the recesses, and I've accidentally just gone into one bit, but it doesn't matter. And there we are, the door knocks. Be back in a moment. Right, we're back. Yeah, one of the neighbours have called round. Oh dear Lord. I'm dropping everything now. Awesome. So, where were we? Oh yes, we were highlighting our little Gnoll Archer. I mean, I could have done more of this off camera, but I wanted you to see what I'm doing before I actually started doing anything off camera. So I'm going to make them a little different because there is claws, not skin, so we'd have to make them look up the part, as it were. So I'll just go over them first of all with this colour, and then they'll be done in a different colour later on. So I think that's basically it for highlighting. I don't think there's anything else we need to do. I'm just going to go over some of the hands. As I said, it's not what you'd call well, the hands aren't really going to be in the light, but we do want to add a little bit of colour just to make them stand out a little. There we are, and I'll add a little over there, and that's about it really. So that's all we need to do for these. In fact, beggar it, let's get them done. Can always do more fast forward. And we're finally coming to the end of this one, where we're just going to add a touch of colour into the hand that's holding the bow, and there we are. That will do nicely. Just take some of the colour down at the bottom here because I don't want it too dark. We had a little bit of pooling of the wash that we did, which is what I was trying to avoid. I didn't see that bit, so but never mind. But there we are. That is our Gnoll Archers sorted out. Now what we need to do is make this colour a little paler. So we'll take some of it, like so, and add a bit more of the Screaming Skull. So I want much more of this and much more of that. And we're just going to add this to certain parts that have been highlighted, just to add that little extra highlight. So we'll start here, and on the highest point we'll just add some of this colour, just as I say, to add that extra highlight. And try not to cover all of the previous highlights. That's not the idea. I'm trying to make this so it looks graduated. So it's just fine little dots, lines, marks, however way you want to do this. We'll try and keep it to actually the uppermost area, because you don't want this part being the bit that's down at the bottom of the highlight. So you do want this one to be the actual main part of the highlight. So as you can see, we don't want a great deal. It is just that in the middle of some of the highlights that we've already done. We'll just add a touch of this just to increase that brightness. There we go. Hope you can see this. I'm not touching the claws on this at all because it's not needed. But we'll just continue doing this with all the minis, exactly the same on each one. Little mark on each knuckle, that will do fine, and that really is all there is. Next we will be doing the whatchamacallit, add a little on there. Next we're going to be doing the clothing. I saw something on that one that I forgot to do on the others, which is paint the nose. So for that we're going to go into the black and just a little spot on the nose. Sure I got it all under. Yeah, I did. That'll do. Now, as I said, next we're going to be doing the clothing. It's exactly the same kind of thing. For the purple, we'll go into this purple colour that we already have. Okay, so we're just doing a mark on each of the raised areas. Don't be too fussy if you miss any. Don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. Just try and get as many as you can, especially the big ones. If you miss any of the little ones, don't worry, but the big ones you definitely need to make a point of hitting. Now there's two layers of this, so we're going to do one layer in this colour. There's two layers of this, and we're going to do them slightly different. However, we're going to start off doing all of it in this shade, and then we're going to lighten the shade and do the higher level one, or the higher layer one, if you get me drift. So where there's this part here is the lower layer, this is the only highlight it's going to get. This part and this part here is a higher level, so we are going to be doing that a little different. Now, as you can see, it's a little tricky trying to get to these areas because of where the bow is in his arm. So I'm not looking for anything dramatic in the line of highlighting. Just try and at least touch it so that you know it's done. Again with this, we're trying to get most of it sorted. So that's that bit done. Next we're going to go into the blue. Again, we're using Cantor blue. The purple we used for this was Xerius purple. This is Cantor blue. To get the colours, just have a look at the previous video or videos. I can't remember whether it was the last one or the first one or the second one that had these colours on. I think it was the first. But as I say, it was quite a long video, and because of which I forgot how I was cutting certain bit out, and I had a little bit of what you call it, a little bit of a wrong decision, and decided to cut it in two instead of keeping it all one. Well, I could have kept it one and it wouldn't have, mind you saying that, there was still quite a long, both videos were still about half an hour, so as it is, but I think I could have, the previous videos, I think I could very well have just kept it as one video, using cuts and being more strict with the what I was showing, but well, it's done now. And that's all that matters. It's done, it's sorted, and I hope you enjoyed it. So these ones are long videos, and I'm sorry about that, but because I'm doing 3, I'm not doing them all the same. I'm trying to show as much as I can of what I do and how I do it, and how the paint looks. There we are. So that's the blue, and now for the green one, exactly the same. No difference whatsoever. We'll just get some of this green paint put back on. As I say, it's exactly the same colour as we've used previously. The only difference is it's now going over a mini that's been washed and is slightly darker, so you're going to see a difference. Not a great deal of difference in shade, but definitely in tone you're going to see a difference. I've got that the right way around. I don't know. It's not going to be a massive difference, let's put it that way. And that's going to come in a moment when we come down to highlighting some of the next lot of raised areas in the clothing. And bear in mind with this that some of it is actually in shadow. He's leaning forward, so the parts I'm painting here now aren't going to be incredibly bright anyway, but I'm still just adding that colour just to give it that continuity. There we are. So that's that. Next, what we're going to do is add a little bit of the Screaming Skull into the purple. And make it much paler. There you go. And this bit is going to be used for the highlights for the raised, or this higher level of this clothing. lower level, or lower layer of this has already been highlighted to how it's going. So we don't need to do any more of that. But we will need to do a little bit on the higher one, just to break up the colours. It's not going to be a massive difference, but it's just going to be enough to show that there is a difference in the clothing he's wearing. There we are. That's all there is. That's purple. Next, blue. Take a little bit of that. A little bit of the Screaming Skull. And we'll make a start on the blue, doing exactly the same thing. Need a bit more of the blue into that because it's a bit paler than I wanted. Actually, I think that colour is much better. Yep. There we are. So we'll just add a few little marks here and there just to suggest the difference. And I hope you can see that okay on camera. You know, sometimes it doesn't stand out as much as I hoped it would, but I hope this is doing. There we are. And as I say, just the areas that are the raised layers. We don't want it on the lower layers because we just want to break the layers up of the clothing that he's wearing. And if you do them all the same, there's no difference. With the layers at all. So there we are. That's it. And next we can do the same thing again with the green area. Assuming of course I can get at some of the Screaming Skull, which I have. There we are. And again, now because some of the Overland Sunset is showing through under this green, I'm just doing a little more to highlight some areas, only because it needs it, not because, or needs it for disguising a colour difference rather than actually need it to show more detail, if you get me drift. But there we go, and that is about it for the highlighting of the clothing. You can, if you wish, go along and highlight more of the bandages that are around his wrists and legs. I'm going to do that in a moment because I think it does need it for this particular model, because the colour scheme I've used is very similar to the colours on the bandages, so just to make them stand out that bit more, we're going to do that. And all I'm going to use is my dry brush and Screaming Skull. So I'm going to get the Screaming Skull on the dry brush as dry as we can get it, and just that's about it really. That's all we need to do. Same on each one of them. There's nothing, any difference on each, because they're all in the same position. And next, there's not much of a difference in this, it's just making sure that there is a slight colour difference between the miniature itself, between the flesh and the bandages, wraps, whatever you want to call them. There we are. Now that we've got the dry brush out, what we're going to do is use it once more, and this time for the black shoulder pads and the bow. Now for the black shoulder pads we're going to be using Iron Breaker, and that is going to be just a very pale dry brush over, as I say, just the shoulder pads, nothing more. Again, we put the paint on and then brush it straight off again. Yeah. One. And change it round, so when you're doing the back, go from top to back, top down, and when you're doing the front, do top down as well. Don't do it all the same way. There we are. And that's that. And next, the bow. For the bow, we want it basically looking black. So what we're going to do is using a spot of Eshin Grey on the dry brush, making sure again this brush is dry. Get the paint on, wipe it off, and there we are. That's all we're doing. Just on the outside of the brush, and the top. There we are. The last thing we want it to be is a bright colour. Well, the last thing I want this to be is a bright colour. I want it to be a black bow. I want them all being black. Usually, as you know, I do bows in like a brownish wooden colour, but I want these, I say, to be black. And you can now, if you want to, just for sheer dibblement, go in with Lothan Blue. Again, get it on the brush, get as much of it off the brush as you can, and just a few. Comes down on the very top edges. And that will be the bow done. There we are. And now the only thing that remains is for the claws to be done. Now you can't see much of them, I know, but I want them still to look clawish. So we're going to use Rhinox hide first of all. And because there's not all that much, I'm just going to take it straight from the pot. Just a little bit of paint. And we're just going to go straight down. Just like that. Yep. I'll do that. In fact, I'm going to put a little bit on the palette because it's awkward trying to get it out of there, to be honest. So I'll get some of the palette. It's only a small amount. I'll just go straight across them, to be honest. Oh yeah, not doing the hands because you can't really see the claws on the hands, but you can on the feet, so they need doing. And as you can see, I'm doing all of them, even the insides. There we are. Not finished yet. Not finished at all yet. Next job is a little highlight of those, and that comes through Screaming Skull. I'm going to do the exact same thing as we did for the bow. Bit of Screaming Skull. I don't really want to use the dry brush because it's a very risky thing to do, but we do want a dry brush. There's too much spray bristles on that, but what we're going to do is just get one of our brushes and just go straight across. That'll do the job. Right. And that is it for the 3 Gnoll Archers. All I have to do now is put the stones on the base, or bases, and paint them up. But there we have it. They're the 3 Gnoll Archers. That's all for this video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Until next time, as always, take care, God bless, and bye for now. Let's have a look at these individually, shall we? Purple.